Hi everybody, good afternoon, welcome to Volcano Summit. I would like to add that also Jose is provided the word by Zacapa Ron, so that's not less important in his bio. Welcome Jose, and well, I think I want to think that most of you know about energy. Maybe some of you just pass by here and say, hey, let's listen to that panel. And maybe some of you will be in this industry in the future. So for that, this panel, Renewable Energy of Tomorrow, what we would like to tell you is that the people here is trying to get to a goal. What is this goal? Let me tell you that as the energy consumption is increasing, our world has many challenges. The main challenge is to meet our goal by 2050 as is in this moment. That means that our planet should not be above few Celsius degrees. And that is climate change. If we are under few Celsius degrees or less, we will make the world by 2050 as we know nowadays. So that's the goal. That's the main topic about renewable energy. So, and here we have four people that are specialists in this, and I just would like to ask you, Marlon, tell us what about the position about energies, renewable energies.
Thank you. I don't know.
I think this microphone is.
Thank you. I think in the transition of the conventional energy to new resource and renewable energy is very important. Now, Guatemala has 65% of the renewable energy, but we need more. If you see the sky normally in this day raining, but now the climate is changed, and it's important to investment in the new technology to the renewable energy. For that, it's important to invest in the distribution grid, to do the maintenance, new research and development, grid integration, and pay attention to the public awareness and education. It is important because we don't like to depend with carbon, with use coal, to use a bunker, to continue to produce energy in Guatemala. Because Guatemala we have in the middle of the Ecuador, and this is very sensible to do the climate change. The phenomenon El Niño is very sensible in Guatemala, reduce the raining, and it's pay attention to the produced energy.
Thank you. Somebody to ask what?
Well, sure. I can add that, for example, Guatemala is one of the most affected countries by this climate change. So it's on the top 10 list. If there is a climate change, Guatemala is going to be one of the countries that is going to suffer most because of our topography and our location. So we have to keep awareness on everybody on that climate change.
Thank you, Jose. And I would like to continue with you, Jose. Can you explain us more about which are the barriers and the challenges for energy renewable?
Okay, so I think there are many challenges in the renewable energy, but for example, we need to transition to the renewable energy. And this is not easy. We need to set up a lot of factors to be able to get there. For example, we need to think about the changes on the adaptation of the law to be able to incorporate certain new technologies. That's one thing that needs to be included. There's also another thing, for example, we just don't want to make our car electric, and then we plug it in, we don't know where the energy is coming from. So we have to make sure that whatever is behind that plug, there should be a certain responsibility of what's happening behind the plug. And that means, for example, we need to have some rules about conflicts, installing projects, things about recycling, for example, the solar panels and the incorporation of batteries, like I said before. So there are many challenges. Also the financing, it's important.
Thank you, Jose. Somebody else to add about the challenges? Seth?
I mean, there are challenges, but we have the technology, okay? We have developed over the past 20 years. The fact is that solar is just cheaper than anything else right now, okay? If we can get adequate financing, you can finance a solar project, and for 30 years, you'll just be saving money from day one. 100% of the projects we do, including a financing charge, our clients are saving money from day one. And yes, we need to worry about recycling, but not for another 25 years. Like, we'll get to it, okay? We're starting to work on it. It's not a rush. The biggest impediment in the region and in emerging markets is financing. There is just no financial architecture to address this new grid. And as he's saying, we've got to clean up the grid. But if we're going to be flipping our cars to going electric, and you're going to get rid of your stove is going to become induction in home, and you're going to get rid of a gas to heat hot water and to cook with. If everything's going to go electric, we need to 3 times the size of the grid. That's a huge challenge. That's a huge challenge.
Thank you, Seth. Let's talk about public awareness. Tell us, Jaime, I know you are doing extraordinary things, and public awareness, I think, is part of these challenges. Can you explain us a little bit more to the audience here in Volcano today?
Yes, I think climate change is here, is happening. We see it here in Guatemala. Rain came in late into Guatemala, and we had trouble generating electricity with hydroelectric power plants. And it's happening in other countries. Rain is not coming in. There's a scarcity of water to irrigate fields to grow crops, and that is causing food scarcity. So we are feeling right now the effects of climate change. And people and developed countries, especially Europe, they've taken that first step, and they're forcing their industries to decarbonize. And we, as Guatemalans and here in Latin America, we also have to take those steps forward. Because if we don't do it, it's very easy to continue polluting and emitting, green gases. Not green gases, but I'm saying polluting the environment and creating global warming. So that's the public awareness that we're trying to, spread to our countries, that we should be taking steps forward to regulate how countries like ours should be going into a greener path.
Thank you, Jaime.
And I agree to incorporate the education to the children, go to the school to teach how to work the hydro power plant, the photovoltaic project, because it's the future. The children need to know the renewable energy is good. It's not pollution, not kill nobody, not steal rivers. It's necessary to go to the small towns, to go, the children say, show the power plants. It's completely clean energy. I think it's the future, because the children not have information to that. They believe that this is very complicated to understanding when it's young or adult, the technology. I think it's the best investment is in the teach and the children.
Yeah, very important. And Seth, you were talking about something very important, and I would like to ask you, what about the opportunities in Central America? Also, what about all of these financial and regulation? What do you think about this?
So, it's a challenge to this transition, but I also think, frankly, this is the greatest wealth creation opportunity of our generation, by far, and specifically for Central America, because these jobs, it's a very labor-intensive business, solar, okay? I have 35 people at my company in Costa Rica, and these are jobs that can't be outsourced. You can't do this from India or China. If you look in the United States over the past 10 years, solar has been one of the biggest drivers of employment across the entire economy. Okay, you need a lot of people to sell the solar, to do the designs, to get up on the roofs, to import the panels. It's labor intensive. It's a massive opportunity for Central America to actually be generating its own electricity from the sun, which you have plenty of. It's a huge opportunity in terms of reducing the energy prices for the companies that are here, which is a huge burden on this sector. And in terms of the regulation, I actually think the United States, its mixed effects on Central America historically, I know, but the United States is passing carbon accounting requirements. It's starting in California in 2026, it's starting in Europe in 2026 or 7, and it's going to happen nationwide, which means that if you are supplying your rum or your orchids or your sugar to the United States, you're going to be having to be providing and reducing you're accounting for your carbon emissions and making efforts to reduce them. It's going to be compulsory. It's going to be shoving this tighter carbon accounting further all the way down the supply chains. And as such, so what's better? To continue importing bunker? I don't actually know where you get your bunker from, whether it's from the US or Russia or Saudi Arabia. To keep paying to import that, or to put panels on the roof and generate your own electricity and have plenty of employment? To me, it's a no-brainer.
Thank you, Seth. Jaime, can you add a last comment about this?
I think definitely solar energy is nowadays the cheapest source of energy. However, many of you might have access to other potential very good ideas to come up with renewable energy. For example, biomass. In the case of sugarcane, the gas is agricultural waste, and basically that waste turns into electricity, or it could turn into something else. Likewise, you might have a coffee farm or some other type of agricultural waste that you could think about creative ways of turning that biomass, which came up, you grew from solar energy, and turn that into another source of energy. Could be another type of fuel that is replacing natural gas or gasoline or bunker or whatever in an industry or in a small home, whatever. There's a lot of opportunities. We just have to be, with that innovation chip in our brain, thinking what else can we do to get us away from this addiction to fossil fuels.
Thank you, Jaime. With these big pictures we have in this moment, I would like to think about two main topics of this. I know Son is part of the panel today.
We need some panels.
Yeah, exactly. One of these is, I think one of the most important problems in the present is that, yes, we need to transform into new ways of energy, but also the demand is increasing. We not only need to transform very soon, we also need to generate more and more energy for a sustainable future. What do you think about these guys?
Okay, I think that the demand is definitely growing, and before we used to have a more linear demand increasing. But we see that in the near future, this is going to grow exponentially because of all the mobility and everything trying to go more electric. So we need to be aware that in order for us to prepare to be able to supply this energy, we need to have more generation. I agree with you, Seth, in that globally, when you have a product that's world-class, they're going to ask you for it. They're going to demand that you are either carbon neutral or where the source of your energy is coming. I can say, for example, for us in Zacapa and all the other rums we make, they are carbon neutral. Our orchids, we grow them with our own energy. We also have 100% autonomous energy. But this is every day becoming more and more restrictive in a sense. For example, the banks. They are closing in on the banks with the ESG strategy and strangulating the smaller ones. The big ones, you can go to multilateral banks, you can go to Banco Mundial or FMI or whatever you want to do. But they have very strict policies of how to do the finance. So in order to meet the demands, we need to be able to promote more generation. And if we want to go in the renewable energy route, I think we need to prepare not only the conditions, meaning the norms, the laws, and everything that's needed there, but also who's going to do the investments. So, for example, here in Guatemala, we have a very diverse matrix. Unlike Costa Rica, where it's ICE and they have one central monopoly, here it's open. The government is also a player. It's INDE, and they have their own plants. I think this is the right model. The model should keep going that way. We just need to do more incentives and more promotions to be able to do those. And standalone projects, for example, if you do a solar standalone project, that would definitely help communities in very rural areas.
Thank you, Jose. Somebody else? Seth, a third question, comment?
Sure. I guess I would say that and I was ranting about the problems with financing before, but I would say that given that this is an entrepreneurial commercial conference, I would say a couple of things. One is I believe that this energy transition itself is the greatest wealth creation opportunity of our time. Two, I might gently disagree, which is if we think into the future, if you think that in 20 or 30 or 50, if you think that we're moving into a future 20 or 40 years from now where everyone's going to have solar on their roof and an electric vehicle and a battery in their house, and that's basically how we're going to be operating with energy, it's not going to be the existing utilities that are going to get us there, because they would have to bankrupt themselves to get us there. They're incentivized to slow things down. I actually think that it's going to be new companies. This is the greatest opportunity in this region and in many parts of the world, which is the entire energy infrastructure is getting disrupted here, the traditional energy industry in many parts of the world. And I would say even here, people think Central America are small markets. I honestly believe your entire energy sector is up for grabs. 100%. There's a multi-billion opportunity in these small markets. More immediately, I think that the biggest problem that we have in the energy transition is inadequate financing, which is also a colossal opportunity. It's a massive opportunity. This is not prospective technology. We know solar works. It's a huge opportunity because it's an impediment. The absence of it is a problem.
Thank you, Seth. Marlon and Jaime, let's talk about the future of the energy. I know, Jaime, you are doing very extraordinary things, and renewable energy is not about electricity only. What can you tell us about the future of the energy?
Well, we use energy in a bunch of different stuff. Not only electricity, but also in the heating process in many industries. Europe uses a lot of energy to heat up their homes, for example, and they've been using natural gas lately, but you've had this war between Russia and the Ukraine, which spiked up prices. So I think energy is not only electricity, it's also sources of energy for heating process in our homes, in our businesses, and we have to think about that also. We also use energy for our vehicles, we've been talking about that, but also in the airplanes. And in the airplanes, you cannot put electrical batteries. It's too dense, it's too heavy. You cannot fly long distances with batteries. And there you have to use renewable energy, like ethanol or like biodiesel, which gets turned into sustainable aviation fuel. That's probably going to be where most of the renewable fuels will go into in the future, into sustainable aviation fuel.
Thank you.
And I think in the future, some challenge to the installing new renewable energy. For example, the intermittence. What happened with the intermittence? The possibility to grid, the voltage of the maintenance of the the regulation. Is it okay to install a battery in Guatemala or no? It's important to check because this is the limit of the if it's possible to investment or no. Because if I have a good idea to install a panel, solar photovoltaic, but in the grid you have a problem, it's not viable to investment.
Thank you. One last, guys, we're in the final part of the panel, so I would like to tell you one last thought and 30 seconds thought in order everybody has a participation. So, Seth.
So yes, it's complicated attaching renewables to the grid, but that again, that's where you need policy, and that needs to be local policy. If I put a battery in my house, I have the capacity to sell that energy and also the frequency regulation, other aspects of energy. I should be able to sell that to the grid. I can do that in the UK right now. I can do that in California right now. That's where you need market reform, and that's difficult because you've got the utilities, but you need that kind of market reform to incentivize the further deployment of solar plus batteries.
Thank you, Seth. Jose?
Well, I think that undoubtedly you have to go into the transition and go step by step. There are many things that we need to consider. There are short-term goals and there are more long-term goals. Specifically, like if you want the grid to be able to support the producers, and if we think about everyone connecting their own car, even the car has a battery that can also do certain services into the grid. I mean, there's many opportunities. We just need to choose what's the right way, stick to one, and go that way.
Thank you. Jaime.
Last thoughts again. It's very easy to just use fossil fuels. That's the easiest thing to do, probably the cheapest. But if we want to have a future for our kids, we have to decarbonize the world.
Thank you.
And the last is we need more renewable energy, not to have a best future. We need renewable energy to have a good present.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And I think the time has gone.
Before you leave. Sorry, I'm just gonna ask right here. I'm open? Yeah? Can you hear me? Cool. All right, so I know I want to know more about it, but I want to ask the audience if you have any questions to any of our panelists. Anyone here can raise their hand and ask a direct question. Make businesses pretty good.
Thank you. Well, thanks for your presentation. Definitely energy is the future, the present. I work for a company, it's called News and Road. We do mission control for energy grids, microgrids. And we started to work here in Guatemala, we work in California. And one thing that was across the board was regulation. And I know you have different expertise in different areas, but how are we going to do that here in our environment here in Guatemala, and what's the role of the private industry, because you're the ones leading change now, because the government has basically not taken an active role in that. You talk about INE, there's been a law of electrification for years, but it has not been into place. So how is the private industry going to drive that change, work with the government, which we need to do at a certain point? So what are your thoughts on that?
All right, I can say that, for example, in our Renewables Association, we have presented certain projects for reforms on the policies and the regulation. It's not easy because it's not dependent only on one sector. There have to be many people that have to be in agreement before this project can actually move forward, and then into the authorities with everybody lined up. So it's not easy. We have a lot of discussions still to have, but we have already done at least 2 proposals that I can remember, one for using batteries, for example, another one's for controlling the grid. But there's so many things that need to be taken into account. I think the private sector has to get together, get aligned, and make a joint proposal so that they can actually get that into work.
Thank you very much. I don't know. Another.
And I think that us, the public in general, we have to tell our governments that we want to have a better future for our country. And we have to make policy change by passing laws that will force us to take a greener path.
Thank you very much. I don't know if anyone else has another question. You can raise their hands. Nobody else? Very good. The gentleman over here with the striped shirt.
What's the most exciting project of renewables you've seen?
Could you please stand up? Just the
most
frequency.
exciting project you've seen in terms of renewable, either in Guatemala or Latin America?
Exciting.
Exciting, yeah.
They lost excitement.
Seth?
Give them a little bit.
I'm trying to work with the Catholic Church in Costa Rica to put solar and electric vehicle chargers on every church in Costa Rica. That institution moves slowly. It's not the most exciting project, but I think that would be very cool if I could get that done.
Very good. Anyone else has a question? I know some people over there are still doubting to ask a question. Nobody else? Good. Over there, could you please stand up? Because we lose frequency. We want to see your beautiful face.
Thank you. What do you guys think about thermal and nuclear?
All right, geothermal, it's a very good, would say, reliable and renewable source. Here in Guatemala, we have a problem that all the permits are already assigned to the government INDE. But there should be a release on that so that the private sector can do more investments on that. I know countries like Iceland have a high percentage of their energy, if not 100%, coming from geothermal. But here we have many volcanoes, underwater rivers, so it's definitely a place to be in order to get the geothermal movement. And nuclear, I think nuclear is too big for us. We need a very smaller nuclear plant.
And I think in general, there's no silver bullet. There's no one solution that is gonna take that dependence away from fossil fuels. It's a combination. Biomass at the most, maybe 15%, but nuclear has its place. There's a lot of people don't want to have a nuclear reactor next door, but everything helps. To be a portion of what we need to decarbonize.
Thank you very much. Anyone else brave enough to ask another question? Are we sure?
Don't be shy. We have some couple minutes.
It's okay. Do we have energy for another question? Renewable energy.
Just to comment on geothermal and nuclear, I actually think geothermal is about to explode. I strongly, if you have any interest in geothermal, check out a company called Fervo Energy, Fervo. They're basically working on doing it for residential. Basically, they'll drill a tunnel under your house. It's all to do with improving the tech and reducing the cost of the drilling. But it's actually, it can be extremely interesting. Fervo Energy, nothing to do with me, but I just think they're very, very interesting what they're doing. Problem with nuclear is it's always just so goddamn expensive, all right? Whatever projections the industry has, it always comes in 4 or 5x. We just saw that in the US with Vogtle, a big nuclear plant. Came in 6 times over cost. It always comes in over cost. The industry clearly basically lies about what it costs. But, it's important, but it's expensive.
Well,
just remember, sustainability or extinction. That's the game. If we're going to make the world as we know it in the present, we just want to transit to renewable energy. That's the tip of this. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you very much. Please give them an applause.